It is Bones, and in this one, let's go ahead and do a topic video. Now, this is basically going to be a full video of McFarlane news. Now, I say that because, McFarlane's been pretty busy the last couple weeks. He has the Kickstarter going on, tons of new releases for the DC line, among other action figure lines, as well as still putting out statues and going way out there, stretching a little bit thin, making pinball machines and all kinds of stuff. So, although people could think it is kind of weird, he is getting out there into a lot of different markets and, of course, opening up the McFarlane toy company as a result. Now, as far as me, I've heard it all before. I've seen it in the comments before. Oh, you love McFarlane. Oh, you love everything McFarlane does. Oh, and could be farther from the truth. And that is because I only collect DC action figures. And while I do dabble in the Spawn figures, I don't collect them as, vigorously as I collect the DC Multiverse. And the main reason I collect Spawn figures, especially the, 2020s Spawn figures, is because I did collect a lot of the older Spawn stuff in the early 2000s. And although those were mainly just, really glorified statues, if you want to call anything a glorified statue, it was those early McFarlane figures because they weren't really figures. They had maybe 5 points of articulation. Definitely a far cry from the more than 22 points of articulation that they now have. But I digest. Now, I do have a couple of topics I want to talk about, so let's get through them. First off, we do want to talk about the Kickstarter because it has almost reached its end. As I upload this video, it may be completely done, but I do know that there was a couple of hours left. Now, McFarlane did say that a lot of the extras, the bonuses, would be added if they reach the 2 million mark. And at first, I thought maybe they're not going to make it, but the last time I checked, they have surpassed the 2 million goal. So that means a lot of the extras, weapons, and heads should be released with most of the packages that people purchased. Now, I funded it weeks ago, and ever since then, I never really kept up or, checked on it or anything like that. I did have some comments to say about it, like that I wasn't as excited as I felt during the first Kickstarter, which I think made like 3 million or something like that. And someone did comment to me saying that, oh, you don't think it's exciting, but it already reached 1 million, or it's past 1 million. And in the end, when we look at it now, they only did 2 million, which is less than the first Kickstarter. And not that I wasn't happy to purchase it and pick it up. I just felt myself that it wasn't the same feeling that we had during the first original Spawn Kickstarter. And we also have a lot of people commenting, that, oh, it's not worth it. It's a ripoff. Oh, like McFarlane's greedy and he's just here to make money. And honestly, you have to think about it. All companies are here to make money. Now, last time I checked, I don't see McFarlane living a very lavish lifestyle. I know he lives like in Scottsdale or something like that in Arizona. As far as mega wealthy houses or stuff like that, he lives pretty modestly for, a multi-million dollar company owner. I don't see him flying around in, Todd Force One. So I don't get where people think like he's so like money hungry. Now, of course, he has things that he likes to spend his money on, like collectibles or whatever he does. But hey, he's a hardworking guy and he's earned the right to spend money the way he chooses to, just like we all are as consumers. I even saw one, moron ranting as he usually does, and he was saying that, oh, where's the value? Where's the newness? Like, what is this? It's just a ripoff. I'm not gonna back it. Uh, didn't really mention how there is innovation in this new Kickstarter Spawn, medieval Spawn. They are going to have magnetic accessories and plates, which is something you've never really seen before on action figures. Now we have seen it with customizing and heads. I've seen it before, which I'm not a big fan of. But this is mostly contained to like the armor and the chest plates and things like that. So I did think it was something cool and interesting that I want to take a look at and see how they really designed and executed these magnetic parts. Aside the fact from you can use a lot of the alternate heads and accessories with your DC multiverse figures. They really fit well with the DC multiverse 7-inch scale action figures. And aside from the weapons that you could use, even the alternate heads and stuff like that could be, mixed around and used on different Spawn and different DC figures. So that is an added bonus for me. Always fun to see where you can spread around the weapons and accessories. And that's where you can really get into some cool figure photography that I even have ideas of what I want to do with some of those alternate parts. The last update that I saw him say that you're gonna get like a Valkyrie helmet, and the new thing about this was that it's kind of soft rubber, so you can have a regular head. I think he used the hamburger head for this, and the helmet just slipped right over the top of the head because it is soft plastic, and that's like having an alternate head without having an alternate head, and you can pull the helmet off really easily and expose the head underneath. So that's another innovation that I thought was really interesting and just something that I wanted to check out for myself, and of course add it to the Kickstarter Spawn collection, which I still have, and this is just the second part to that collection. Now, I do think the hours are ticking away when you're not going to be able to back this anymore, so you're going to be done, and then you're going to have to be looking for it on the secondary market, which is never really fun. Now, the next thing I wanted to get into was the recently revealed Jokerized versions. Yes, McFarlane is continuing with this little side collection of Jokerized figures. Now, one thing I will say is at least the figures are usually Batman centric. They are Batman characters. They haven't Jokerized a Wonder Woman, which a lot of small brain people were out here saying that, oh, wait till he Jokerizes Wonder Woman. Not gonna happen. And I have spoken of this before, and that is that McFarlane did not invent Jokerized versions. They were around since the Mattel line. I remember seeing a lot of Batman v Superman figures that were Jokerized, but that is where it started. And McFarlane has taken that and ran with it and made a whole subline of Jokerized figures. Now, another thing about this is that somebody collects these, somebody enjoys these. I've seen a lot of customs of Jokerized figures. I've seen a lot of people displaying all the Jokerized figures together. And if that's what they like, that's good for them. Now, I'm not going to say they're like the most sought after figures from McFarlane's DC Multiverse line, but there are a couple that are harder to get than other ones. I remember everybody going crazy and paying elevated prices for the Batgirl that was Jokerized. I randomly came across her at Target, and I just picked her up just for the fun of it. Now I do have most of the Jokerized figures, but I do keep them in box, not necessarily feel like I need to have them for display. Now eventually when I move into a larger place, I may end up opening those and putting them all in one shelf. Now, you want to at least have one positive about these new Jokerized figures, and that is that it looks like eventually you will be able to build your card deck of the cards that are coming with these figures. So you need to get 52 of them. I don't know how far we are. It's like I said, I'm not really interested in these. These are not a big thing that I collect. I just collect them if I come across them or if I see them for a good price. You know that my rule is that I must have at least one of all releases, but I'm not going crazy trying to pick up every, figure that McFarlane releases. Eventually, I will pick them up. And this takes me into a lot of, I don't understand where the hate comes from for these things. I mean, there's some people that are like, oh, cool, whatever. But there's a big contingency of people that just hate these Jokerized versions. They don't want to see them. They don't want to see them in stores. They don't want to see people buying them. Although sometimes now that I see it, McFarlane is using figures that he'd never get a chance to use the mold. So he's just, putting them as Jokerized versions. And it's something like the Frostbite versions, those, frozen figures that he's come out with. I just feel like if it's not for you, then don't worry about it. Don't buy it. Don't think about it because that's basically what I do. If there's something that I don't want or I don't collect and I see somebody promote it and say, oh, look at these new figures, I just say, oh, that's cool, but not for me. So I just move along. I don't dwell on it or I can't sleep at night because they release these figures that I don't like. So I just don't understand where that comes from. But hey, you do you if you want to spend your life worried about things that you're not going to buy, you're not going to pick up. This is a low cost thing for McFarlane. So when he releases these Jokerized, Frost, black and white editions, there's something that he already has the mold. He just has to decide what paint to use and the packaging. And one thing for sure is that they don't make millions of them. None of these figures are taking up, production runs where they're making so many of these that they can't make anything else. These are all being made in smaller production runs. So I think in the end, it's no harm, no foul. Not for me specifically, but if there's something you collect and you like, then, more power to you. Now, the next topic I want to talk about is, of course, you hear it all the time. Why so many Batmans? McFarlane, all you make is Batman. And I got to be honest with you, I've told everybody this before. Batman will be with us until the end of the line. Until this line ends, there will always be Batman figures made. Now, what's really funny is that these are by far some of the more popular figures in the DC multiverse line. If you go back and look at it, a lot of the Batman figures are a little bit tough to come by in the secondary market. I know you don't want to hear it, but it is true. Now, of course, there's ones that are cheap. They don't really have any value, but many of the figures that ask for a higher price are Batman figures. Even Batman related figures like Nightwing and Red Hood also tend to go up in value. I know it's sad to hear for a lot of the Batman haters, but it is facts. It is the truth. And and another funny thing is we always do go through this first with the Three Jokers Batman, then the Hush Batman, then the Nightfall Batman, and now the 66 Batman. Every time a new Batman is released, people say that this is the best Batman figure or this is their favorite Batman figure, and that's just the way it is. Batman is always going to be the backbone and a cornerstone of any successful DC multiverse action figure line. You just cannot get around it. And that even goes into any company that has a DC license. They tend to make a large majority of Batman figures and Batman related figures. And that is because they know what sells and they know the more surefire way to make back their money. And this even goes into high end lines. Like, let's just talk about Mayfix once again. Now, I did go through my whole Bane and Mayfix and Batman thing. That's fine. If you collect Mayfix, there's nothing wrong with that, especially if it's something that appeals to you and is your preference of action figures, nothing wrong with that, but I just don't collect that. I have always collected mass retail DC figures. It's just what I've always done. I love the variety. Now I love the scale. And although it's not perfect, there's things I don't like about the line. And usually I just, shy away from what I don't like and really enjoy what I do like. And although I am somewhat of a disgusting completist because I must have one of each figure, there are figures that I see and I just tend to, I'll get it when I get it. It's not a big deal. But for some reason, all companies that make DC figures make a lot of Batman. And I do have receipts. Recently, there was announced, oh, we're going to get some new Mayfix figures. They're coming out. We're going to see the prototypes. And what do you know? They're more Batman figures, Batman related figures. It's not going to end. Mayfix knows what characters to make to get their money back. They're never going to make an ambush bug. They're never going to make a ragman or even like a Godspeed figure. It's just not something that they're probably going to do for the next 20, 30 years if they ever, even end up making other characters, except for the sure sellers, which are Batman, Superman, and maybe a little bit of side characters, but they definitely stick to their moneymaker, and that is going to be Batman. Now, one thing I do agree with everybody, do want to see more accessories, do want to see more innovation in the articulation, and I definitely want to see more female figures. There's a lot of characters where we are getting them out, they're trickling out. Definitely need to make a run of a lot of female characters, in succession. I would really be happy with that. And if McFarlane is going to lose the license eventually, at least he can go out in a blaze of glory. Now, there's also rumors about certain companies losing lines, certain companies going after certain lines. We have yet to see what will happen, but it is going to be rather interesting. Now, right before we go, let me bring this out. A while ago, I did pick up the McFarlane and original Idea of Spawn 2 pack. Never opened it, never reviewed it. So I recently did open it up. And I have to say, it was very fun. This McFarlane figure is rather interesting. Comes with some nice assortment of hands and accessories. Um, the Spawn figure was good. You know, I didn't really have as much fun with that one as I did with the Todd figure. Now, a while back, I had bought this little desk. I think it was from Marvel. And I had certain ideas of what I wanted to do with it, but they just never came to fruition. But now that I got this McFarlane figure, he fits perfectly on this little desk. And one thing I am going to do is I'm going to remove my little display here, my Chrome Skull, my Superman, and this is where McFarlane is going to be sitting from now on. Now, it's not because I'm a big McFarlane fan or anything like that. I do it more like to troll people and to antagonize them. Every time you watch one of my reviews or one of my videos, you'll see Toddy Mac sitting up there, hard at work like he usually is. And I'm basically doing it for the lulz, which is something that I usually do just to enjoy myself and have fun. But you guys, keep hunting out there, keep collecting, keep customizing, and I will see you on the next one.
They used to call me Crazy Joe, but now they can call me Batman.